We are live from the Contractors Edge booth, sponsored by our friends at Foundation Rescue Supply. They go beyond the products. We're here with Tom Gibbs from NCFI Polyurethane. Excited to hear what he's got for the contractors today. So, Tom, thanks for coming to sit with us today.
Thank you.
Curious to learn more about you and your company.
Sure. So I've been in the poly part of this business for about 18 years now. Foundation repair in general for close to 25.
Oh, wow.
So better part of my career has been in this industry. And so I used to have a small company doing this kind of work myself, but sold that and worked for a manufacturer. So I've been on and off with NCFI for the last 10 years. I did take a little hiatus, went back over to the contractor side for about 2.5 years with Keller North America, which gave me a lot of really good commercial experience.
Oh, yeah.
Using the product in a lot of commercial applications, in some cases in ways that it probably never been used before.
That's exciting.
But I've been with them as a territory manager. I'm currently the national sales manager for this product line. And so NCFI, we focus on the experienced team, right? We have 9 people on our team with a combined over 160 years of experience.
Wow.
Using these products. So we recently just brought on Rex Klinsman. He's an engineer that's been working with this product since the 90s.
Wow.
And so it's going to be really nice to have his support, engineering support, to help our customers out on some of these large projects in particular, where helping more than anything else, helping engineers that our customers are working with get a better understanding of how poly works. Polyurethane grouting is not taught in college. It's just not. It's not something that you're going to get in an engineering, class or anything like that. And so a big part of what we have to do is educate our contractors and the engineering world about our product and how it can be used. It's not as mathematic, say, as a helical pier or a push pier. Like,
yeah.
You can put numbers to those types of things.
For your spacing.
And it's harder to do that with polyurethane because polyurethane, when it goes in the ground, is going to react how the earth will let it react.
Sure.
Okay, so if we have, say, a 4-pound, we call it a 4-pound foam. 4 pound just means that's the density, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it takes 4 pounds of material to make a 4-pound cubic foot of poly. That is a number that is what we call free rise. The free rise, basically, if you were to shoot a bunch on the ground, on top of the ground, let it grow up,
mm-hmm. cut
it into, that's what we measure. Right. All those properties that are on that technical data sheet are based on that, right? It's compressive strength, 4 pound is going to be about 80 PSI. But when you put it in the ground, it's going to react to the environment. So the difference in lifting a 4-inch slab versus a 12-inch slab, you're going to have a different end product. It's going to compact more because the environment won't allow it to grow to its full. The good news is that when you do that, all of those strength values go up with the density.
Right.
So if you shoot into underneath a thicker slab to lift it, or shoot into different soil when you're doing ground improvement type work, we look at the geotechnical reports and say, okay, well, we work really well in what we call weight of hammer soil up to about 10 blow count material.
Okay.
It's going to react a whole lot different in a 10 blow count material than it would in weight hammer material. Right. Expand more.
Sure.
In the lower the blow count.
So I know that we don't get universal adoption from the foundation repair companies when it comes to this product offering or service offering. And I know with the clients that we have on the agency side, I really always love when it's one of those offerings because it is fast turnover. You can do so many projects. You can run tight crews. And from what I hear, because I've never really been on the contractor side, running my own operation, is that the profit margins are really there too. So I was hoping that we could talk a little bit about what type of investment for a foundation repair company who's not currently doing this.
Yes.
Would you be looking at to get involved?
Sure.
And, how fast can you turn that into a net profit for that contractor once they have that rig in operation?
Yep. So quite a few of our customers go with a trailer package. We do sell the equipment and train on the equipment as well. It's kind of a necessary evil.
Yeah.
Not something we necessarily wanted to do, but we feel like we have to because, we can only help if we know the equipment that they have, right? And we do represent Graco and PMC, the two biggest, manufacturers of the equipment here in the States. And, so we have a range, we have I don't want to call it an economy rig because it is an investment. It's not cheap to get into this per se, but the margins are so good that your first couple of jobs are going to make, if you finance this thing, your first couple of jobs that you do with it are going to make your monthly trailer payment. And then the rest of it is just great after that. So, right now the industry is going through some, price increases because of raw material supply. Sure. That's a tough topic, but it does exist right now. But the equipment side of things, you're looking at anywhere between $100,000 to $125,000 to get a trailer rig. But it pays for itself pretty quickly. And so that's a turnkey piece of equipment. As long as you've got a truck that can pull it, you're not going to need really go out and buy a bunch of other stuff. There are a few small tools, a lot of which most people might already have, because they're already doing foundation repair, they might already have a concrete saw or something like that. As far as those things. Cool. But we do provide the training. That's a big part of it. My team, again, with our experience, we've all been behind the trigger. We've all pulled that trigger and shot, literally probably millions of pounds of this stuff into the earth. And so, we have a tech team. We're bringing on another tech as well. So the tech team, they do the majority of the training. My territory managers are out there with them as well, because it's not just about learning how to clean the gun and run the equipment. It's also about learning how to estimate the sales. It's about learning how to market. And, we do have a marketing guy that we use that can help with that as well.
Great.
And so we try to provide all the things that a customer is going to need to be successful, and that experience background with our teams really brings that full circle, I think.
So for our listeners, we've got a lot of them that are like, they're already doing a lot of foundation repair, but they're not really into the poly. And when we've had discussions about it, we have, clients on the agency side that some of them just do poly, and they're extraordinary.
Yeah.
Others are, adding poly in as an additional service. And I think it's fantastic because it is a smaller ticket job in most cases on the residential side.
Right.
It's something that you can turn a lot faster. And right now, given the resistance, homeowner buying cycle, the cost of everything, that we've seen that the poly jobs are actually what's helping out these contractors. So for the guys that are actually listening right now and thinking, is it something that, I think I want to get into? What's that typical learning and training cycle? So from the point that you get started in purchasing the product, engaging with your team, to the point where they have the confidence to go out there and really provide the service.
It is a great add-on for anybody in the foundation repair business, because anytime you're lifting a structure, you're creating voids. And this product is perfect for filling those voids in. I understand that a pier is spaced out every 4 feet, whatever it is supposed to carry that load. That's fine.
Sure.
But if you lift the footing for a house, the slab is going to go with it. And that slab needs that support. And so poly is a great way to fill those voids in. I've got contractors, if they're doing a bigger lift, they'll shoot underneath the footing just to provide that additional support.
That's
the reestablished ground contact.
Yeah. Because otherwise you're going to get moisture in that you're creating this gap. Literally, you're just introducing it. So you're taking care of an issue that you think could be a permanent solution. But with that void, that could be a serious.
And in addition to that, look, if a foundation's settling, there's probably some sidewalks and driveways and garage slabs that have settled too, because the soils just weren't properly compacted, or it's a drainage issue or whatever that's caused this. And so it's a great add-on. It is, like you said, with the residential market, there are some big ticket jobs, but not all of them are going to be huge.
Sure.
But it is a great add-on. I do suggest, it's kind of weird that sometimes I'll get guys that do all the foundation stuff, and sometimes their sales force just having a hard time getting them on board. I encourage them to look at the margins and say, okay, our margins on this are so much better than they are on piers or waterproofing, whatever, and create like a different commission program for the sales of this product, because they can afford to pay a little bit more.
Yep.
Because it isn't as big ticket item. You know, it's hard to get a guy excited about when he can go out and sell a $30,000 foundation repair project with peers about a $1,500, you know, driveway project.
Right.
I get that.
It's difficult too. I see a lot of the time with my clients that they look at those different divisions of the business as the same. So you will get the sales force like kind of pushing back, where it's like, I'd much rather go on this foundation repair peering like lead or opportunity versus the concrete lifting and leveling. And I can't help but feel the complete opposite. I have a client in Columbus that like does this like universally. That's all they do. Yeah. And they have averages, you know, that are above 3,000 for the ticket.
Right.
Their appointments that they run are like an hour maximum. Actually doing the project, you can do 4 or 5 of them a day.
Yeah.
Like it adds up to where that $15,000 foundation repair project might have taken you 3 days.
Yeah.
Instead, you did 5 of these projects in 1 day.
Right.
You actually made more net revenue on the salesperson side. First of all, you profit margins that maybe you can up the commission on to incentivize them. But also, like if you run the numbers, you make more money doing that if you can fill your schedule.
Yeah.
Yep. We've seen city code enforcement actually help with the awareness, because now the cities, at least in the city I live in, I thought it was really crazy. They're citing these notices and saying, hey, if you don't take care of it, yourself, we are going to come through and take care of your sidewalks because you have a responsibility for that.
The domino effect that you get out of neighborhoods, because most of the time when you're talking like sidewalks and driveways, if there's a problem with this home, there's probably a problem with every other home. Like you might skip one every so often, but that neighborhood is in like trouble. There's something happening in the soil.
Sure.
And so you end up having this domino effect where you come into the neighborhood and people see that you did this. And it's like, the foundation repair, it's under the earth. It's not visible to the neighbors. Like, what did we just do to this home? Right. This is it's a vanity some of the time. Yep. You know, you can get these people who just want the prettiest house on the block, so you can sell it that way. It is safety because you can trip, fall.
Yeah. ADA, compliance is important for commercial people, but it's also important for homeowners as well. Sure. Somebody comes on your property and trips on your sidewalk because you didn't fix a trip hazard, you can get sued for that. So having that, and aesthetically, poly is going to be your best answer. We're drilling a 5/8 inch hole, can even do a 3/8 inch hole as well. A few holes will usually fix it, and so it's cosmetically, if you replace it, number one, the price of concrete has soared over the last years. It's really up there. And so, but also just finding a contractor who's going to come out and replace 2 or 3 sidewalk panels or 1 driveway panel, it's going to look different. And it's hard to find anybody that's even going to do that.
Without a doubt.
And so repairing it is always going to be the cheaper, better method. And, the way we do it with cosmetically, it's a no-brainer. It's a great solution.
I'm curious about something because I know, contractors are going to have this question. If they're not familiar with poly, they probably have competitors that are doing it in the area and they might be considered doing it. How long does a poly solution actually last? So if we're thinking like sidewalks, driveways, patios.
Well, the polyurethane itself, it has great, longevity. We actually had to do a test for the Department of Energy, DOE, years ago because it's being used for encapsulating nuclear contaminated material.
Wow.
There you go.
So polyurethane's got a very long lifespan. This study showed that it was literally 1,000.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was obviously an accelerated age study. It hasn't been around that long, but the only thing that really harms it is UV rays. So, but everything we're putting is in the ground. So, so if it ever settles again, it's because of a deeper problem. And so we encourage the homeowners or any, whatever it is, building owner to fix any drainage problems. On the commercial side, we end up a lot of times getting to see soils reports and find out if there is a deeper problem. On the residential side, that's tough. I mean, not even the peering guys typically are getting engineering reports, geotechnical studies to show how deep the problem really is. They're just going in and saying, "Oh, we're going to put piers. We're going to go as deep as we need to go." With poly, it is when you're just doing injections through the concrete to lift, it's going to compact the soil at the top a little bit, because if you've ever tried to jack anything with a bottle jack or something like that, the dirt,
it compresses,
right,
and
it
you're going to
squishes the dirt, right?
Yeah.
So same thing's happening there. It won't lift the slab until it's compressed the dirt directly below it enough to lift. So if the soil is really bad right underneath the slab, it'll compress some, but it's not going to go real deep. It's not going to have an effect 3 feet down if you're shooting at the top. Now we do train our contractors to do deep injection stuff. So if there is a soils report and we know we have deeper issue, we can address that with poly. Some guys are going to look at it and say, well, we do piers, we're not going to do that. That's fine. A lot of times piers are a better answer. We'll tell you if we agree with that. But where poly can shine in that world is when access is a problem, right?
True.
Yeah. Zero lot lines. When it comes to commercial and particularly industrial work, when you go that route, getting to stuff. I mean, I did a project at a high fructose corn syrup plant.
Oh, wow.
And it's 60,000 square feet of building, but probably 40,000 square feet of it was covered with tanks and pipes that attach those tanks to each other. And you just couldn't bring in traditional grouting equipment, drills and stuff to do it. And, we just if we can get our hose to where we need to go, it's a smaller footprint operation than a lot of that stuff, especially when you start talking about commercials.
That's great.
So, I say one of the things that I wanted to point out just in the conversation to the contractors who are using this service, who are doing this offering, as somebody who's coming from the marketing side, one of the pet peeves I have is I watch them all turn away business that comes from this. So if you guys aren't currently using it, you should definitely talk to the guys. Look at your options, have them talk to you about what it would look like to recur or get that investment back, what type of timeline that looks like, because you'll be shocked how quick it is, and you can stop turning away business that's coming to you.
It's a natural fit. It's your guys are on projects where there's jobs every day, and so it's a great add-on for those that do crawl space encapsulation. This is the same equipment that you would use to do spray foam insulation as well.
That's great.
So I've done projects where we did the walls with spray foam instead of the boards. Right? And so that's a nice thing. It can be a dual investment, go both ways.
That's great. Yeah, Tom, we really appreciate your time today. What's the easiest way for people to connect with you?
Just reach out. I mean, I live in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm in Eastern time, but I don't ever really stop answering the phone. Okay. So we're happy to help any way we can. Our website's just NCFI. I don't know if you guys would put our contact information on the thing, but just reach out anytime.
All right. Yeah, we appreciate you for joining us.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.